Hey, what's up? I'm Terry Bellini, and in this video I'm going to be putting up some new drywall. So I'm in the process of kind of remodeling this bathroom, and I was going to retexture the wall that was here. It was a different texture than the rest of the house that I'm doing, and I was going to put some mud on it and call it a day, but I decided I want to put a towel rack here. And so instead of like cutting out a hole and then putting in repairing it with a block of drywall and taping it and doing all that, it wasn't that big of a section of drywall that I had here, so I decided just to rip the whole thing out so I could put in some blocking for the towel bars that I did in a previous video. So basically these are in now, and I'm going to put in some brand new drywall and just make it a little bit easier on myself. So basically what I do to do this is grab yourself measuring tape and measure what you need to do. And there's it's kind of like Legos. You kind of got to figure out how you want to kind of like piece it together. And most basic normal sheets of drywall are 4 by 8 feet. Some are larger, but your just average piece of drywall is 4 by 8. So that's what I have. And I think what I'm going to do, I have two options here. I can kind of go like one long piece all the way across to here, and then have the second piece basically down from here. But I think what I'm going to do is just have one long piece here. I think this is the easier way to do it. One long piece all the way up to the top, and then a section across there. So that's what I'm going to do. And it makes it kind of easy because like I said, they're 4 by 8 sheets of drywall, and I have 8-foot ceilings here. So I don't have to cut the height at all. I just have to cut the width here. So to start things out, I'm basically going to measure what I need here. And up here, looks like it's about 42 inches exactly is what I need. But when I measure down here, it's almost 41. It's like 41 and a quarter. So it's like a full 3/4 inch difference from the bottom to the top. So it's not perfectly straight down. So that's a little tricky. So what I'm gonna do is that I know it's 42 inches from there to there, just about. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it at 42 inches, and it'll be a little bit long at the bottom, right? And so all I have to do at that point is, if it sticks out at all, I can just take a razor knife, go along the board there and just snap it off, and that should be fine. It does stick out a little bit here though because of this. So some things to kind of work around, but it should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut an 8-foot sheet of drywall, 42 inches wide. And that's where I'll start. And then the second one, we'll get to that one in a second. So I'll show you my process as far as cutting it here. Okay, so I've got this green board here, and there's a difference between green and regular white color. So the green is for like higher moisture areas. And so I decided to get the green just because it's a bathroom and it has the potential for mold and stuff. So just to be safe, I went ahead and got the green drywall. And what I'm gonna do is just measure out, like I said, 42 inches. And one thing that's super handy to have is one of these drywall squares. They fit, they're made for this. So it's 4 feet wide, and you can slide these around. They're just super handy. So if you're working with drywall very much at all, I highly recommend you get one of these drywall T-squares. They're super handy. So what I'm gonna do is take a tape measure and pencil and basically measure out 42 inches along this board. So 42, continue marking 42 inches. And from there, you can take your drywall square, and it's perfect because it's got all these flat edges. So I can pull it to the top of that and it squares off. All I have to do is slide it over to the mark I made. So I've got that square there. And what's also handy about this is that you can use it to guide your cutting. So I have my razor knife here, and I can line this up, and I can use it to score the surface here in a straight line. So if I try and do it freehand, it could be it won't be a perfect line. This way, it really helps guide your cut. Just like that. Come down here, and we'll do the same thing. And I'm not pushing very hard. I'm not trying to cut through the drywall. I'm simply scoring the surface of it. All the way down. Once you score the surface like that, I'll lift up the board. And all I have to do is just pop it. And it snaps just like that. And you take your razor knife and just cut the paper through here. Just like that. So that's the best way to cut it. So another thing to keep in mind when you're cutting the drywall for sections like this, you want to make sure you have enough room too. This is a little tight. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be able to get this in perfectly or not, but sometimes you can't get an 8-foot section of drywall into a room, and you have to do, smaller sections to just get the drywall in the room. So I'm going to go ahead and see if this will fit, and if not, I'm going to have to cut it and just do a couple sections just to make it a little easier on myself. Okay, I'm gonna give it a shot here. See if I can get this to fit. Okay, so I lucked out. That was a very tight fit, but it really makes it nice because that way you have one less seam to tape, and I can just put this right in place and be done. So that's what's nice about that. So one thing you want to keep in mind when you are putting in drywall, you want to make sure you know where these studs are so you can screw it in place. So what I've been doing with that is I will follow the stud up and put a mark on the ceiling about right in the middle of that stud is. So at least I know where I can put the screws in. Another thing you're going to need is one of these guys, a roll lifter. So it's hard to hold a large piece of drywall in place above the ground because you do not want the drywall actually touching the ground. If it's touching the ground, it has a likelihood of absorbing moisture, and that's how you're going to start getting molds and water issues with your drywall. So you want to make sure that your drywall is not touching the ground but is lifted up like a ½ inch or something like that. So what this does is you stick this right here on the bottom of the drywall and you step on this and it basically lifts it a little bit. So I can lift this up into the ceiling with a little bit of space on the bottom so I don't have that issue. So that's what I'm going to do here is basically put that down there. I'm going to put this in place. Like so. I'm gonna go ahead and slide this under. I'm gonna grab a couple screws just so I can secure it in place once it's in a good spot. Okay, I have it just about in place. And so what I'm gonna do, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a gap along the top, and that's what I'm talking about. So it's resting on the ground right now. So I'm going to lift this up until it just about touches the ceiling. And that gives me plenty of clearance along the bottom. And I'm following my line down, so there's a stud around here somewhere. there. Nope, I missed. One little thing that's kind of handy, if you have a laser level, that makes it super easy because you can just follow that line all the way down and it draws the line for you. If you don't have that, you just grab your square and kind of realize where you're off. So I need to go this way just a little bit more. So keep that in mind. There's one. I'm going to go ahead and secure on this side as well. Okay, and that should hold it. It doesn't take too much to hold the drywall in place. I have 2 screws in, and I just let off the foot roller, and it's holding it in place. So once you kind of have it in place, a couple screws should do it. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put screws, you know, maybe about 12 inches apart. So I'll put, you know, one there, one there, one there, and just kind of follow that pattern all the way down, and that will be basically done. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When you're putting in these screws, they sell special drills for this, or they sell a special bit you can put on your impact driver to make it so you don't go too deep, because you do not want to break the paper on here. You want to sink the head of the screw down a little bit so it's depressed into the material so you can go over it with mud. You don't want any of these sticking out proud further from the surface, because then you're going to see them when you finish painting and everything. So you want to stick them just below the surface, but you don't want to go so far that you're like breaking through the paper into the drywall, because it's not really holding very much, and it's just not going to hold well. So I'm kind of winging it right now. I'm trying to go just below the surface and be very light on the trigger so I don't go through it. So that's what I'm doing here. And what I'm doing after I put in each screw, I'm making sure that I'm below the surface. If I catch an edge with my thumb, I'll sink it a little bit further. All right, so that's how you put up a piece of drywall. Just basically cut it to the size you need, screw it in the studs, and lift it off the ground, and you're pretty much good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out this piece and continue going. And if you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.